So as this decade comes to a close, I realize something. I have been collecting for 20 solid years. I basically started in 1999. Some could argue that I have been collecting ever since I got that first Mario figure. That's what I had said. Because my parents got it for me a long time ago. I think it came out in 1989. They might have gotten it in like sometime in the 1990s. And I always say that figure kicked it off. Well, the thing is, I had that figure for a long time before I started looking on eBay and stuff. So I had some Mario figures and stuff, but it wasn't a collection necessarily, and I didn't know there were many more in the set. So when I looked for the rest of that set, that is when I found the entire set, which I didn't know existed, and then I found, while looking for those, a lot of other sets out there at that point. Like the European sets, like the Mars set and the weird kind of offshoot Italian figures and whatnot. And I tried my best to find out if they were official, but it was really tough back then on early eBay days and early internet days in the late 90s to get that information, to figure that out. So a lot of times I'd just order it and it'd come, and then I'd see if there's official markings on it or not. So that brings us to today, where you can just walk into a store and, hey, there's Zelda stuff on the shelf. There's a Zelda pin set I picked up. This one's upside down. It's going to want to be upside down because it's top heavy. You just walk into a Target and buy Zelda merchandise. And that was unheard of when I started collecting. I quickly learned that Zelda was the one to look out for. It was way more expensive, even early on. It was harder to find, harder to research, and it was just more expensive than the Mario stuff. So, because I had some disposable income, I bought quite a bit of that stuff early on, which is nice because that stuff's really rare and hard to find now for the most part. So those were the early eBay days. Once I found Yahoo Japan Auctions, though, things changed quite a bit. I used to use a whole bunch of sites. And a lot of them are on the forums and on the website and stuff that I need to fix. But it's been quite a ride since I started collecting, 20 years. From those early days, I remember I had quite a few figures on top of my PS1 in my dorm room in college. And then that expanded to when I got an apartment. I had an entertainment center, if you guys know what that is. It's where you put your TV and you had all your other stuff, but the TVs had to fit in an entertainment center because they were huge. They were CRTs. So on top of that, you could put, all kinds of stuff, and I had the entire thing lined with figures, of course. Well, then I figured out I needed some shelves. Once I got into a different apartment, I hung some shelves. And I have a bunch of shelves, 3 or 4, and all of them had a theme, like Mario figures, Mario plushes, Zelda stuff. I started getting into Mega Man at that point, seeing what was available there. And they had a lot of figures and stuff starting to come out in Japan, the Bandai figures. So then I moved again, and then I got a bookcase. And I actually got a couple of bookcases that were like clearance. I'm like, well, now I can kind of fill stuff out. I started getting Kirby merchandise, Donkey Kong, a bunch of different stuff. And then it grew again. I moved into a house. I had my own room. And then I moved again. So, in this room right now, currently that we're in, might be a little bit bigger than the other room. But it definitely has more furniture in it to hold stuff. So this is probably the last stop, but you never know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. For 20 years I've been doing this, and I've got a lot of really rare stuff. I still have a wish list, of course, of stuff I need to find. Slowly ticking those off as I go along. Oh, hold on a sec. I'm back. So talking about wish list items, I just picked this up. And I've been wanting this guy for a long time. He is Orthros That's his Japanese name. He's from Final Fantasy VI. He's the chrome figure, and I've got a bunch of these chrome figures. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like up there. And it's the Final Fantasy Chrome collection. There's authenticity cards and all kinds of stuff related to them. I don't know if it wants to come out of there. So this has been sitting on my wish list for a long time. And the guy had it up for a price that I was always looking for it for. He's worth about $200, $250 maybe. And I got it for $150, so there you go. There's a little sheet, has a little hole in it, but I have no idea what it says. It's product info probably, but on the actual item, it has an engraving that says number 991. I don't know how many were made. There's probably information out there somewhere, but with this set, I was more casual in collecting it because I didn't want to pay a whole lot, because they can go for a lot of money. So I picked him up. He's just a funny character from Final Fantasy VI if you've played it. His name in that game is Ultros. Well, the American version anyway. And he was always hilarious. He looks really, really scary, but he's kind of a doofus. And the fact that the monster even talks. And then, like, he calls in Chupon, and Chupon's even scarier than he is, and you know, just the whole thing. But to have, like, I don't think I'd played an RPG where the monster actually, like, talks to you and hounds you and trashes you and stuff, so that was funny. And he pops in now and then. He's annoying, but he's funny. So that was kind of a random purchase that I made right before Christmas. And it's just stuff like that, where you never know where you're going to come across a good item at a good price. And largely, if I think back, the only item that I've spent more than $500 on is this what do you even call it, a display case? And a couple of the first 4 figure statues that are just priced over $500. And it took me quite a bit to get to that point where I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. So I got the Bowser. I got the exclusive Bowser with the fireball. And I managed to squeeze him in. I've got a number of other statues on hold now that I don't know where I'm going to find room for, but I'll find room eventually. But the room's pretty full, so I have to kind of be careful about what I get now. And with there being so much stuff that's so easy to get, it's not as fun, maybe? Like the Jack-specific stuff, I find it just annoying, because it should be just easy to pick up, but it's not. It's you know, you have to go to all the different stores in your area and see maybe the off chance that one will be. I haven't done much internet shopping with that. The World of Nintendo set from Jack's. I mean, a couple of them I knew I'd never find. But then, you know, occasionally you do find one. Like the other day I found the gold bullet bill. It's like, who knows? Who knows where it's going to show up? So collecting's funny like that. But I've never really truly felt like I've overpaid for something. There's been a couple of things I got in a bidding war on way back in the day. And that kind of taught me, it's like, well, now I don't feel good about that item because I spent way too much money on it. So I was really careful, because if that item ends up in my collection, then every time I look at it, it's like, well, you paid too much for that. So, and there's a lot of other stories I have in this collection, like with the prototypes, getting those randomly, the Super Mario Bros. 3 sign, the E3 merchandise, going to E3, that was all crazy stuff. So I've got a lot of really great memories and a lot of really great stories kind of encased in this collection. So I'm just looking back on 20 years of collecting, and I think the funniest part about coming on YouTube was like, oh my god, this guy's rich. No. This collection, you know, took a long time and a lot of hard work to put together, but it's not like I bought it all at once. I think that's what the perception is sometimes when people, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy has so much stuff. He must have bought it all yesterday. And he's showing it off. Well, no, It's taken 20 years, so that's longer than a lot of my viewers have been alive, unfortunately. But, you know, I love my younger viewers too, because it's great to see people getting into it. Now, I don't envy you, younger viewers, because, oh man, some of this stuff is so expensive now. Like, I bought it for either retail, or I managed to get a good auction, or I might have paid a little bit more than retail. But, like, trying to get into it now would be so difficult. Like, some of these things are over $1,000 for something pretty small. And I have a hard time justifying like big prices for small items, for sure. If I ever find that Super Mario Land Mechabon figure, though, I might have to go for it. But you never know what's going to show up. It's just been a lot of great years, and with the forums and the website that I had, and all the communities that I've been a part of, and my communities that I have fostered over the years. I've got some great people in those communities. Like the Facebook group, I guess, is the most active one right now. I want to get that database back up, but a lot of hard work. And yeah, I mean, I've expanded a lot. I've played a lot of games this year. I'm kind of way behind. I know a lot of gamers say that, but I'm way behind on my list of games to play because of all the kids and stuff. It's hard. It's really hard to play mature games with kids because you have to wait till they go to sleep, and then your wife wants to do stuff, so it's hard to get game time in on the mature stuff. But mostly I can play during the day, for the most part. Play a couple half hours here or there. So I've gotten a lot of like indie games like Owlboy and stuff. Gotten through a lot of those. So I still do a lot of the gaming. Got an Owlboy figure. I just posted a picture on the Facebook group about all the things I got in November and December. I might put that at the end of the video or something. But this is just kind of reminiscing over 20 years. It's crazy. It's really sinking in, like how much stuff is available and how much stuff I've gotten of that. Like, I know there's still a lot of American merchandise, but there's still, I don't know, some of it's interesting and some of it's not, and I don't like collecting the stuff that doesn't display well, like plates and bowls and towels and stuff, shirts. It's just one of those things that some people might say you should go after all that stuff, but, you know, collectors like what they like. I tend to like figures and statues and plushes and stuff. Recently on the Facebook group, I asked a bunch of people, what is your favorite thing to collect out of your collection? If you have a pop culture thing that you collect, what is it that's the best of that pop culture that you collect? So a lot of stuff like Star Wars and Disney and stuff have just about everything under the sun. I mean, if you like to collect lunchboxes, they'll have one for you. But with Nintendo and stuff, I think the best stuff, my favorite stuff to collect is the articulated characters, so you can pose them in different ways and stuff. Link has a lot of those posable ones. Samus. Kirby's kind of posable. I think the best ones use the magnets. Mega Man is very posable. Mario's kind of posable. But Mario doesn't have great figures for posability. Maybe the SH Figuart stuff. But at some point I'd really like to make more of those pictures that I did at one point of the articulated figures, and then you pose them and make funny pictures and stuff. But and I've got a lot of other projects in my head that I want to do, but it's just like the time part is really hard. So who knows what will come of it in the coming years, how much longer I'm going to do this, who knows. But when new stuff comes out, like all the Nintendo Tokyo Store stuff came out, I was really excited for it. I mean, you don't lose that excitement for stuff, but I don't know how feasible it is to keep going with such a full room. You're going to have to weed out some stuff at some point, which is really hard for me to do. Well, and then as it grows older, you know, the collecting has shown no signs of like losing its value. Like some things you collect let's go with Beanie Babies, because everyone has heard of Beanie Babies. It's like they had a huge collecting boom, and a bunch of people spent a ton of money on Beanie Babies, and then all of a sudden, boop, it was out. Nintendo games, NES games in particular, are nearing that zenith, I think, where people are spending way too much on these things, and the value's risen up because a lot more people are jumping in, and I hear a lot of tension in that area. I kind of follow that a little bit. I don't really have anything truly rare, but when the fans that actually grew up with it and have it and want to own it and everything, when they're annoyed that just collectors are coming in and buying this stuff, it's a tough thing to weed out, because collecting is fun, but just to say you have a pop culture thing, some people are just in it for the display, and games should be played, in my opinion. So if you're, I don't know, when I went to go find games, I was always finding games to play. I was never finding games to display. And like a lot of games, or a lot of collectors display all the games, and more power to those guys. Like the guys who collect, guys and girls, those guys who collect like every NES game, every SNES game, just astound me. I've been in a collection of every game of Super Nintendo, every game of N64. They're incredible. It's overwhelming, but I'd have a hard time doing that myself, because I don't value every game. Like, every game has a value, sure, but like wanting to play some of those titles, I know they're trash. So I only collect the games that I like to play. So my game collection is more modest, but I have quite a few. I just don't talk about it that much because my claim to fame is the memorabilia, and a lot of people don't collect the memorabilia. But I think that's changing because there's so much of it out now, especially with the world of Nintendo and all the recent stuff that's come out. It's astounding to me, and I think more people are into it, and prices have certainly gone up. So and yeah, it shows no signs of stopping. So if I do eventually decide to sell it all, who knows? It'd be a monumental task to sell it all, that's for sure. Selling is hard. For me especially, it's really tough to do all the, and like what platform do you go with and whatever, and where do you get the best price? And I'm kind of obsessed with getting the best price. I have to get over that, because someone's just going to get a deal. I know a lot, just about everything in this room, I know what it's worth, what it could fetch, but it's not going to every time. So there's always been a lot of anxiety related to selling it, but it's got to happen at some point. You can't keep it. Can't take it with you. So whatever. That's what my wife always says. Yeah, it's been really fun, this 20 years. 20 years of finding crazy stuff and sharing it with people. I think that's the best part, is sharing it with people, and then seeing other people share things that they have found. Oftentimes someone will show me something and I scramble to find it myself. Sometimes it's not possible, but it's one of those things that I just like seeing it. I just like seeing what's available, having a record of it. The history is very important to me, and I think it's important to a lot of people. And I think the memorabilia part is obviously less of a focus for some people. Like the games themselves, there'll be a lot of those games, like the really well-known games, are going to be digitized and whatever, and kept for a very long time. But the merchandise, it has an expiration date. Like plastic doesn't last forever. So it's one of those things. They'll last a long time, but you never know. So, and preservation of this kind of stuff is tougher than games, I think, because the games, you can have those digitally. It's not the same as popping it into a physical system and playing it, but like this kind of stuff, you can take a picture of it, but if it's not, if it's not tangible, it's not as fun, especially with this stuff. That's kind of why it's tough to show you guys. Like, holding something is way different than actually just playing something, I guess. So yeah, 20 years. What do you guys think? 20 years. How long have you been collecting? Let me know. Show me some cool stuff. It amazes me, I think, the most that after 20 years I'm still seeing new stuff. And not just like the new merchandise that came out this year. New old stuff. Like this year we found some crazy stuff that was like, oh man, I'm trying to figure out something I've seen this year that was old. Yeah, I don't remember at this point. But I remember there was a couple of times, especially on the Facebook group, of stuff that none of us had seen before. It was like, wow. So someone will come on the forum and be like, does anyone know anything about this? And I'll be like, that's the first time I've seen it. And that's a big deal for someone who's been collecting for 20 years to see something new. It's really exciting. So, of course, send me stuff. Send me pictures. I love to see it. I especially love to see collectors who are just starting out. Here's my picture of my collection. And a lot of people are worried about showing that to me. It's like, well, okay. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff, but I'm always interested to see where people start. The starting off point is always a really important part to me. And yeah, I'll probably be a jerk and tell you that some of this stuff is fake, but it's important to me that official products are purchased and people, money isn't going to bad people who make counterfeit merchandise. You all know that about me, though. I don't like counterfeits. That's been another fight of mine over the 20 years, and it's like really hard. I mean, if Nintendo can't stop them, who can? Well, and there's companies bigger than Nintendo, so. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Just a little nostalgic video. I don't really do a whole lot of videos where I don't talk about merchandise, or like a specific piece of merchandise, but I've been asked before to kind of reminisce and divulge information and whatnot. So if you have questions for me about collecting or family life or whatever, shoot it in the comments. Give me some feedback and I'll make some more videos. Thanks for watching, guys. And thanks for being a part of my YouTube channel all these years. Of course, I haven't been doing it for 20 years, but if you've been following me for 20 years, I don't know if anyone has, but maybe 15. I think I've known some people for 15 years who collected, but it's been a great ride. Thanks for watching.